Hello and welcome to the Overton Audios podcast. My name is Connor Chadwick.
And I'm Daniel Patton.
And on today's podcast, I'll be having a chat with Eamon Longmann on Doctor Who Remembrance 2 and some of the other projects he's written for.
How are you doing, Chadders? How are you doing, sir?
Tired.
Tired.
Very, very tired.
It's not been an easy October, hasn't it, for us, as we're recording this?
I've actually, oddly, I felt productive, but nothing's happened. If you know what I mean?
I don't know, sort of your body sort of told you enough's enough sort of thing.
No, I feel like I've done a lot. I feel like I've done a lot for editing and stuff.
All right.
But I haven't really. I've been editing. Ironically, in a little bit, we're going to be talking about the first volume of Time Travel Cataclysm. The trailer's already out by the release of this podcast. I've actually been editing the second volume, and problem is that it's not finished still. even though I'm on the penultimate episode of the volume, no episodes are finalized, so it just doesn't feel like I'm doing anything.
I get what you mean. Yeah, it's sort of like you're working so hard, but yet it's not finished yet. So it's sort of you're in that state of mind saying you've worked hard at the same time. It's just like it's not done yet.
100%. Yeah, it's basically like I can't remember where else I've said it, but finished writing the first volume of Tortured Rebirth. Obviously, Rebirth came out last month, so I was trying to get volume 1 kind of kick-started for then. So that's probably why I feel productive. But then, of course, it's in recording at the moment, and we're pushing forward with recording. I think, actually, do you know what? I think the reason for the productivity is because we've also been working on audios, like, for example, the cover arts you've been doing for me recently that you shouldn't be talking about.
I do quite a few.
The one you sent me, you sent me one of them yesterday.
Yes, I'm aware which ones. I'm just trying to. Yes,
you're going to work. I'm being very factual. Yeah,
I know you are. You are locked safe, my friend. There's no getting past.
But yeah, it's a case of we've been working on those as well. So I've been feeling productive there, but those are still quite far back. So I'm working on stuff that's coming out in 4 months and trying to sort of play catch up at the moment. But and then also as well as that, those of you who are attached to the DW 2012 Discord will know this, but I've had John and Harper staying at my apartment for the past 3-4 days.
God bless you, sir.
It's been he's got this very chaotic energy, hasn't he?
John is an enigma. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, as a result, I have been a bit more productive with some audio production because today's Friday, the 29th of October. It's so last minute to be recording this, isn't it?
It is, but it's just been a hectic few weeks for you, to be honest, and me as well. To be fair, today is the best day to do this because I personally went deaf in one of my ears for the last week.
Oh, actually, yeah, call back. Remember how last year I was talking about that? It's Dan's turn now. Remember I was talking about it in the podcast about my ears.
It's not good, people. No, it's not good. Take care of your ears. You only get 2 of them for life, so you better take care of them.
Admittedly, actually, this year my right ear went deaf for a week and then cleared itself up. And yours was similar.
But, yeah, well, it was just for a week.
But it's not fun at all because you're lying there and you're like, I just want to be able to hear. You can't hear things properly. You might have to say pardon quite a few times when people, especially if they don't realise those things, they just don't do it. But when I was deaf in both my ears and still going to sight, it was weird because you had to. It was odd because you had to grow to live with that because you didn't know what was going to happen.
Did you have this basically whenever you regained the hearing on the ear? Did you still feel like it's so weird and you double check sometimes? Is it still working?
For me, oddly, when my hearing came back, walking was weird.
Really?
Because obviously it all comes into balance anyway. Like, hearing, just your senses help you find balance in the world. And
yeah, exactly.
But yet also my hearing, listening to me walk, I kept thinking someone was behind me. So as a result, it was just really odd, and everything was super loud all of a sudden. It was just very odd.
One of the things I was sort of dealing with is I felt like a very bad fiance during this past week, because usually Anya is walking on my left side. That's just sort of the way we walk together. But my left ear is the one that's went deaf. And every time she tries to speak to me, she thinks, Danny, being rude because you're not listening to me. It's like, I can't hear out this ear, love. Everything just coming in from the right.
Yeah, so, that's exactly how it was for me as well. It was just a case of people end up shouting at you because they get frustrated that they're having to repeat themselves. Not shouting at you, but shouting what they're trying to say to you. But obviously, saying it a bit more aggressively.
And poor Annie, like she's dealing with so much stress with university and all that stuff. Like, by the way, I can't remember if we mentioned in the podcast yet. I was meant to be moving out.
Yeah. A whole nother thing there for everyone to listen to. Two podcasts in a row, we've been saying you're moving out.
And 2 delays still. 2 months of delays.
What's the update now? Is it moved to the end? It's not the end of November now, is it?
It's mid-November currently. We went to visit it's still under construction, and like all the furniture is there, but like there's still, I'll be honest, it's very close to completion in terms of construction. But at the same time, I'm just like, I don't really feel comfortable going to a freshly constructed apartment, because like obviously there's going to be a few red flags and from initially when it's just finished. So I just like, I hope. So I'm not too sure what's going to happen. I don't know what's going next, but I think in the next few weeks is going to be finished construction. The main thing that's holding this whole process back, especially for the move-in part, is there is currently a bit of a housing crisis. There's a bit of we're sort of dealing with the traumatic after effects of Brexit with power and fuel currently. Like you've been reading the headlines about those. It's been affecting us as well. But to me, I mean, so we getting power to that apartment is taking a long time. It was meant to start getting power at the mid-October, and they're saying it's not going to have electricity till mid-November, so it could be complete next week, but we still can't move in until they get the electricity sorted in there, because there's literally no way I can be able to do work without electricity. There's no way we're going to be able to live in that apartment without electricity.
It's ridiculous, man. And what I'm really hoping doesn't happen is that the 1 year contract hasn't come into effect yet.
Me neither.
I don't want to, because you were supposed to move there in August. I hope they don't say, you need to move out in August 2022, but it's not been a year. Yeah, but the contract came into effect then. It's like, yeah, but we haven't been, what? Yeah.
Well, we'll see. Well, currently we're not paying rent, which is a good thing. So we're saving. We've been saving money this last 2 months. So that's wages and everything else that we are putting back into the wedding that we'll be able to save up to, just so we're a bit ahead of rent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So that's the only upside I can see about this. But again, poor Anya, she's having to commute every time she has to go to university, and is just taking a toll on her. And I just and she had to deal with and she had to deal with her partially deaf fiance as well for the last week. So God bless her. That woman generally goes through too much. It's just
so.
Also, there's another thing we haven't talked about in last month's podcast. Now, I don't know if this is because we talked about this in depth a lot, but we haven't talked about it in the podcast.
Okay.
That is the return of the Godfather of Doctor Who.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, we haven't talked about the RTD's return on the podcast yet.
No, because I think when we record, no, I think when we recorded last month's one, it had been announced, but as always, we're running so much and so far out of time.
That was a very packed podcast last month, I think.
Yeah.
So, what? Obviously, our initial thoughts were mind blowing. I was cleaning up the remains of my brain that were scattered around the room as when I heard the announcement. But, shall we discuss our feelings on, like, especially since now we have some more news to talk about, especially around it?
Yeah, I mean, I find it quite interesting the way that it's going to be sort of a co-production now. I mean, obviously, when you look at things like Tortured Miracle Day, when it was done with BBC and Stars had more of an input rather than the BBC. It seemed like in that one, the BBC sort of facilitated filming in England. But weren't, like, you know, I mean, they weren't the production team. It still felt very much like a Stars production that the BBC were just helping with.
I agree, yeah.
And maybe some budget stuff as well. I don't know. I don't know the details of it, but it felt like that at the time. And what might be interesting is with Bad Wolf TV, I hope. I mean, I like Chibnall's era, but the one thing I'd say that was my least, or if not, it's actually not even my least favorite. It's actually the one thing I hate about it is the way they've marketed the series. I mean, I read to you last night. You know, I saw on Twitter that some of
there's no
people had tweeted some of the reviews.
For viewers.
Yeah, the magazines who do the early reviews for people to watch it weren't given a copy to watch, and you're like, what on earth? And I did actually find out that one magazine was able to write about it, and that was it.
Well, we can touch about that a bit later, but yeah, but in terms of the co-production of Doctor Who going to Bad Wolf TV.
Oh yeah, that's the comparison I'm making. Is that I'm hopeful that with Bad Wolf TV, they're able to have their own choices about how they market it, and that the BBC and they just tell. Like, for example, I'd heard somewhere again. I'm just here. It's not. It feels like rumors, but I saw someone who's involved with the BBC marketing team was told that they were only told about this announcement by Bad Wolf TV 10 minutes prior to it happening.
Jesus.
It was definitely something that Bad Wolf TV announced themselves, but through the Doctor Who Twitter.
Yeah, it's like with everything else that's going on with Doctor Who, that the marketing has been shocking. It really actually has been. I'm very happy that Bad Wolf TV are taking up the production side of Doctor Who as well, because I don't know if you know about their repertoire. They have quite a good roster of shows under their belts.
Is it His Dark Materials?
His Dark Materials, which I've just started, and it's very good, sir. Very, very good. Generally, one of the best made television I've seen in a long time. Well, not a long time. There's pretty good television these days, but it's very, very well made BBC drama, and the fact that Doctor Who is going into their hands is a very comforting thought for me.
There's been obviously a lot of I love the idea of RTD coming back. I was sat in this chair at the time, and I had my dad and another work colleague over at the moment. We're just having a discussion about work, and then you messaged me going, and I looked, and there was this news, and I showed my dad, and he was quite excited as well. My dad's not really been like he was a fan. He watched it when he was a kid. But if you know what I mean, he's entered that sort of generation who are like, oh yeah, I watched it as a kid. It's good to see that it's still on, but I don't really watch it. Is that sort of part of the audience?
He watched it as a viewer, but he wasn't like a fan of the show.
Oh, he doesn't really watch it anymore either. But when it came back with Eccleston, he was watching it, and then obviously, you know, adult life continues on. Misses a couple of episodes, then decides not to bother. But yeah, he's excited too, and so they might pick it up again because he liked RTD's first series with Christopher Eccleston.
Yeah, like I was having mates from uni who just did not watch Doctor Who in over a decade. come to me, said, Dan, we heard the news. Like, yeah, RTD's coming back. Like, they're so excited, they're pumped, and they're like, I might get back into Doctor Who. So I just started, welcome to the club, man. Welcome to the club, mate.
Yeah.
He's like, are you getting excited with Doctor Who again? And I was like, yep, welcome to hell, mate.
But overall, I'm very happy about it. There's been so much speculation about what's going to happen in the series, and I'm like, it's not happening yet. I mean, apparently, I've heard little rumors that it might be starting to film in the summer of 2022.
Considering TV productions these days, usually that's around the time that they usually do start filming a year in advance, and I like the idea that they're giving a lot of time for the 60th being filmed for them to release it there, so they can get it all polished and ready for whatever.
This is what I spoke to John about, because John was saying to me at one point that he wasn't really a fan of the way they film it so early, and I said, well, I don't think it's that. Like, for example, this is what I hope is going to be the difference for the way that Bad Wolf TV handle it in comparison to how BBC have handled Doctor Who recently, which is it's all right for them to film early. I think that's fine. Yeah. The problem is when you withhold everything until the last minute, and you're like, but this has been shot for a year and a half.
Yeah, like I was going to say,
whereas I'm hoping that we get some of the original teaser trailers we used to get in the very early days. We'd see a couple of glimpses, and that was it. Whereas now you don't get anything. You're like, no. I'm sat here now on Friday 29th of October, 2 days before Flux starts, and the only reference I have is Dan talking to trick-or-treaters.
Yep. And this is the thing as well I wanted to bring up. In this podcast, as we're recording this, and even in last month's podcast, we didn't know anything about Series 13. For all we knew, it was still called Series 13. We knew it was going to be a serialized drama, but we didn't know it was going to be subtitled. We didn't know. We didn't have any trailers. We didn't have an episode title. We didn't. I'm just thinking to myself, and we've only really had this stuff 2 weeks before the series is broadcasted, and to me, that's not great marketing, especially for the time of year they decide to release the series, which is on Halloween night. And I don't know about you, but Halloween's a very big deal here. Nobody is really watching TV in Halloween, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about you over in England. Like, obviously, there's people who don't really celebrate Halloween, which is fair enough.
On Sunday,
I envy those people.
Yeah, on Sunday I'm buying a load of sweets. I'm just gonna have them ready for people to sort of knock by. It's weird. Actually, that's the weirdest thing, right? Because I first moved into my flat on Halloween night, and I saw that there were some trick-or-treaters about, but I was too busy moving, so I don't think people knocked by. So this will technically be the first Halloween where I'm going to find out if I'm a proper adult.
Yeah, indeed.
It's going to be weird because you usually when you're living at the family home or anything like that, someone else sorts that out, and you're now here going, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
Wow. I'm going to be the one who opens. I'm going to be the adult who opens the door and goes, "Wow, great costume! Oh yeah, here would you like some sweets?" I'm going to be like, "Oh my god, I'm the adult. I'm not the one trick or treating anymore." I haven't trick or treated. I can't remember the last time I trick or treated anyway, but still.
I get it. The thing is, I think the airtime for series for episode 1 or chapter 1
625.
625, which is around the time that the trick-or-treaters actually start trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
So imagine families. Imagine some people who are trying to watch Doctor Who are constantly getting knocked at the door, so ask for trick-or-treaters.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck off. Oh god, sorry, let me discover. Sorry.
I'm keeping that in. I'm keeping that in the podcast.
Oh god.
Have everyone shame him. Everyone message him on Discord or comment on this podcast and shame him.
Sorry.
Talking about children trick-or-treating. And he says that.
And then but then people try to watch Doctor Who and they're going, and they keep hearing trick-or-treaters who are trying to watch the Halloween special. I'm just like, just go away, Doctor Who's on.
I can see that you've tried to do. I can see that you tried to do a second take of that line, so I can edit out what you just said, but I won't be.
I'm just trying to finish a bit, to be honest.
It changed. It changed. It changed to
Why
you.
wasn't they
It changed to you
just
swearing at. It changed to you swearing at children who are trick or treating.
Let's just thank God.
Daniel, we've been in lockdowns. We missed last Halloween, and now you're trying to tell kids to you're swearing at them. How could you?
Lockdown has been great for me socially.
Speaking of which, shall we talk about time travel Cataclysm?
Yes, we shall. Come on, stay with me. We still have so much work to do. You and me. Come on, Aaron.
It's over. What do we do now?
Overton Audios presents.
We're having to use daylight to see in this room. There is no electricity. Everything digital is wiped out.
We were informed that the grid operating system was going to wipe out half the human race. We thought we'd stopped it 3 days ago.
So, the world's gone to hell then?
It's just us now. We need to rely on one another.
Hey, Jason.
Elizabeth, Harriet, you're alive.
Do you have any idea what you've done?
You've killed him.
A pleasure to see you alive and well, Miss Jackson.
What the hell is he doing here?
Oh, I'm a time traveller. Did Jason not mention?
You're going to kill him.
Yeah, and he just tried to kill one of us.
As Prime Minister, I deem it necessary, General. I thought you said this was under control.
You shot me.
Be glad it's only your shoulder.
They terrorise everyone. We can put a stop to that if we show them that the streets aren't theirs anymore.
Rebuild. There will always be oppositions in this life. We're beyond Thorncorp and Quinton Technologies. There's no need to fight anymore.
Time Traveller Cataclysm Volume 1. Coming the 6th of November 2021 at 12 p.m. So the reason why I say it relates to what you just said is we actually used some of what the government did for COVID as a stepping stone for how we handle this.
So like the eat out to help out thing.
Not quite, but essentially, to give a refresher for everyone, at the end of the 2017 volume of Time Traveller, there's basically the big bad of the visual series as well as some of these audios has been this AI called the Grid Mainframe. We made a set of volumes between 2014 and 2017. Well, we made them in 2020, but they were titled as the years 2014 all through to 2017, set in between the episodes of the visual series as an anthology. Now we've caught up with the end of the visual series where the AI basically uses its last amount of power to set off an EMP and a contagion that wipes out half the human race using people's blood types. Now, when we were talking about how we're going to do this, we were talking about how the national grid was going to work, etc. But then as we were discussing these ideas and actually starting to compile ideas to start writing, the first lockdown happened. And we decided to take a break because we suddenly realized we're coming up with a story about a post-apocalyptic world. And when you really break it down, it's a bit too familiar. So we took a pause. Yeah, we took a pause, and then, but then we actually noticed that the way that things were being handled, the lockdown, and then other little case studies that were happening at the time regarding COVID, were actually a very good baseline of what to reference for this. Now, not to say that this volume is about a lockdown and about COVID-related stories, because it's not. We actually skip that element completely. There's the first episode takes place immediately after it's happened, where people are running about trying to get their lives in order, trying to see what's going on. And then by the second episode, we've actually skipped forward 3 months where there has been a lockdown or curfew of sorts. And now things are kind of open again and people are trying to reconnect. And it's just then about the aftermath of things. It's not so much about returning to normality because all technology is dead. So there's still a change there, but it's about rebuilding. It's about coming together to try and rebuild a new world. So whilst, yes, we took some inspiration for how things have been handled during a lockdown, it was just more world building than it is actually a narrative story element.
Yeah.
But we've got your character, Jason Newman.
Yeah.
He's got his dog Alfie and his farm. So he's now stopped. Obviously they've got nothing to fight anymore. But so he's in those 3 months found something to do. He got the farm working again, and is feeding people who just can't feed themselves and don't have the food, because obviously with everything.
I remember when you pitched me like all the ideas, like what we're doing with Jason during Cataclysm, and he said, "Oh, how you feel like giving Jason a dog, and we call him Alfie and everything." Because for people who don't know, Alfie is actually my dog in real life who passed away in 2019, and Connor, you knew how how much that affected me. And I was just like, I love the idea. But I basically went up to you and just said, "But I swear to God, if anything happens to that dog, Chadwick."
And it was very clear as well to me that I don't like it in movies and TV series where someone who's living at their flat has a pet, and they're in the first episode or the first couple, and then that pet just stops existing.
Exactly, yeah.
So for me, I've sort of created with using Jason's dog, not a character, because barking, it's just barking, but the dog has got a personality of his own as well. Like he is a loyal friend. That's the biggest. Indeed. That's the biggest thing you can say about Jason's dog. He's a loyal friend, and you'll see that as we go along. And also, didn't we say this? But I don't think it's ever fully referenced. But in the volume of Time Traveler 2017, the second episode, they find experiments happening to dogs and animals.
Yeah,
and they free them. That's John's character, Andrew. He frees them all, and they run off. And because it happens so close to the end of the Cataclysm scenario, we sort of said that Jason, sometime after the Cataclysm event, found the dog.
Yeah, like Alfie was one of the dogs that were experimented on.
And then they both sort of, because Jason at that point, one of his friends has died because of this, and he just feels very lonely. And then there's this dog he meets who's been taken away from his family. You don't know where from. We never find out, but they can both relate to one another in that way.
To me, he just lost a friend, but as well as he's also in this world he's not familiar with, and he can relate heavily to the dog, because obviously like a dog sees the world as this big unknown place, and they're trying to find familiarity with that through companionship with people. And I feel Jason relates that so heavily, because like he doesn't belong to this world. It's he feels very alien to this world, and it feels much bigger to him than his world, because he knows nothing about it. And now, as he's trying to get his footing in this world, it just the rug gets pulled on from him, and the world changed.
He's used to a version of Earth where basically he's fending for himself. It's either been normal, which it isn't anymore, or it's under a horrible fascist regime.
Yeah, okay, exactly.
And now he's in the world where it's similarly quiet, but it's like he can't fix what's gone wrong, and that's what makes things tough for him, is he can't fix it, and he's lost, and he's already lost so many friends as it is, that he just wanted to give up. And of course, like I said, I like to think that Alfie saved him in many ways.
He did, yeah. And
also I wanted it to be a very sort of fitting tribute as well to your own dog.
I thank you very much for that, mate. Really, thank you very much for that.
No worries. So, shall we go and talk to Eamon Longmann?
Yes, we shall.
Over
Overton Audios presents Doctor Who Resurrection, Remembrance 2.
It's the solar energy, Henry! It's thrown us off course! The Doctor shouted. I wasn't entirely sure what he wanted me to do about that. I mean, I don't know how to fly the TARDIS. It's great to have you back, Doctor. And so, will you help us get our Mercury back? Ah, of course, I said happily. The Doctor spoke through the earpiece, saying that I was having too much fun with this. I ignored it, because this was my chance to be the Doctor.
I did hope he would take heed of what I had said. After all, we are Time Lords, and a human like her, well, she does like to play her games. Well, it seems as though I don't know who you are at all, she snaps at me. I felt lost in this moment. I had to claw for a way back out, to find something, anything.
Who are you? Asks Ryan, stepping forward, slightly on the defence. One arm reached over to shield Alison from any incoming attack from the stranger. My name is Roxy Taylor, the stranger replied, moving her hand to one of the pockets in the jumpsuit. The Doctor finished the note, wiping a small tear from his eye, and turning to the girls, both of whom were crying. He wrapped his arms around them, and they stood in silence, staring out into the distance as the sun rose up.
Doctor Who Resurrection, Remembrance 2, coming the 11th of December 2021 by 2 p.m. Hello everyone, and I'm joined by Eamon Longmann. Hello Eamon, how are you?
Good, Connor, how are you?
I'm good, I'm well. Yeah, I've overslept this meeting, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. A very well-deserved sleep, I'd say, though.
Yeah, it was just, went to bed at about 2. Probably not the best. I've basically got a huge amount of lines recorded really recently, and I've just been mass editing them because I've got about another month and a half without doing anything. So I've got to do that. But yeah, how long ago was it that you messaged me about writing something?
I messaged you. It's one of the dates I took down because I thought I should probably take down some dates. I messaged you on the 9th of July, 2020.
That's when you wrote that?
Yeah. And then I didn't get a response from you until the 2nd of September, 2020.
Oh, right. You messaged on the Facebook page, didn't you?
I messaged you on the Overton Audios Facebook page, yeah.
Yeah. And then I remember that, yeah, because I was just like, can I just add you on Facebook? Because I'll reply. Because with the I don't get notifications from the Facebook page that I've received a message.
Yeah, it was like going months without hearing from each other.
Yeah, and then it was just back and forth, and then because you wrote the Remembrance 2 audiobook, didn't you?
Yes.
Which was called Falling.
Yeah, that's
as I've said in previous podcasts before as well.
The infamous one.
Yeah, it just makes me very emotional listening to it, all that sort of stuff. But like, so yeah, you messaged almost a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Oh my
quite
God.
a long time. And
Yeah.
I didn't realize it's been over a year since I wrote the Remembrance story. I thought it was like November. And I looked at it today and I sent it to you on the 7th of October.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's so much longer ago than I thought it was. I was like, no, it was like the end of November. And then I looked today, I was like, oh my God, no.
Well, I know that the first episode of Remembrance 2 that Lewis recorded he recorded that in November as well. And he sent it to me. I went, so when's this one out? And I'm like, December 2021. He's like, what? Because usually it's like a 6 to 7 months behind. But these audiobooks were so easy to produce, which is why I did them, was because I knew they'd be kind of easier releases. That and you only have to have one person record, and it's just like editing the podcast for me. It's just that you sit there and listen. And then if you hear any outtakes or little other bits where it's like, oh, well, there was a bit of a longer pause than it needed to be, I can cut that down. Yeah, and yet, despite doing all of that with your story, it's still 50 minutes.
Yeah, no, every time I'm listening to a podcast and you and Daniel mention it, I'm like, oh, that's me. Whoops. Because I remember and I was like, oh, it's like 14 pages. I was like, how long does it need to be? And you were like, 8. And I was like, oh, okay, can I get it to, and then you're like, just get it to 20. I was like, cool, I can get it to 20. And then I think it ended up being something like 25 or something. I was like,
27.
27. God.
But then as a result, because John narrated it, and there were obviously there were naturally pauses when, you know, you can't just say all the information in one go. So there are like little musical pauses when, you know, like, for example, I'll say this about the story, is it's essentially a love story.
Yeah.
But also a story about depression as well.
Yeah, it's a really heavy story, I think.
And it was intercutting between a present day and a flashback. So I think there were musical cues in there, which is probably what made up the time as well. Musical cues, which I kept using to reference when we were, you know, there's a long pause now, and then when we start off, time has passed or gone back, etc. But yeah, it was great. And you can hear John, if I was sending you the raw audio of him, he's just like, I was there, the doctor, because he spent a full hour solidly reading it.
No, I remember you sent me like sneak peeks of the recording on the 19th of November. And it was literally just 3 clips of just John. And at the end of one, I remember him just stuttering and then just going, ah, shit.
Yeah. Yeah, he was all over the place, because he started off really fine, but then he was like, I'm only on page 10. I'm only on page 10. Like, because when you roughly do the 8-page one, it typically comes out at about 15-20 minutes. And you took over 27. It was like, oh. But yeah, usually it's really easy. Like, I've been thinking about it for a little while about doing a 3rd set of them, but like doing them with Series 4, because obviously when these come out, they're mainly set in the, what you might call the classic era of Resurrection. You know, you've got the Series 2 TARDIS crew. Yeah. Maybe having some with Carly, or having some with Carly, or some just solo Julia stories.
Yeah, no, that would be cool, I reckon.
Doing
more audiobooks.
Yeah, because I made you're probably aware that we did the short tales with DW 2012.
Yeah.
That's what kind of made me think that, because that's what made me think, maybe we could do it. We could actually make some. But for me. And and it's also testing out the new layout as well, because obviously they've not got the bars on the side. So it's testing out the new layout of, because Resurrection's effectively over, and when we do anything more with Cravat, it's going to be more like the cover arts that you see in Uncharted Past and Young Doctor, more of like the text at the bottom and the top of the cover art rather than one big bar. Yeah,
one of the more kind of modern audio drama kind of covers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you never know, because we never know what is going to happen now with like the Big Finish ones, because you never know, because of the logo change.
Yeah.
If it becomes stacked again, they might have to go back to the bar. But yeah, so you also wrote for Crimson Hunter Volume 2, which has just come out as of recording.
That was the second one I wrote.
Yeah, that was. Oh yeah, back, and then it was. Yeah, so from this year, isn't there 3 scripts? So but going in order of what was written will be the exact reverse of the way it's coming out, which is it goes Remembrance 2, the episode called Falling. Then it was Crimson Hunter episode 3 of Volume 2 there, and then Mastermind.
Yeah,
Man on the Hill. There was a good response to Mastermind, wasn't there?
Yeah, no, that was a good response to it.
I remember, I don't know if I've sent you the recordings for it or just little snippets, but when John was recording for it, he just kept laughing because he loved it, because it was him being the master, being a proper devilish.
Yeah, no, I based it, because I was going through kind of like a mental breakdown around that time. I just had like a long friendship end.
Yeah, was it that one, or I remember you told me before that.
It was Mastermind. I was going through like a friendship ending kind of thing. It'd been a long-term friendship, and it was kind of ending, and it was really, because I'm ADD and I'm also introverted, so it's kind of takes me a while to get like comfortable around people, and for this to be ending, it was kind of causing me a lot of mental.
Yeah, of course,
so I don't think I'd slept very much in the past week. I hadn't eaten much in the past week, and I knew I needed to get the script to you, so I just kind of like threw it together. But the way I'd been kind of getting through it was I'd been listening to the War Master, because I knew I had a master story to write. And so I was listening to the Master of Callus, the second War Master box set, which is one of my favorite master stories. And that's where I got a lot of the kind of
I got
vibes.
I got vibes from that too, because I thought, well, he's not actually in this much, but when he is, he is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the kind of vibe I went for, like Call from the Dead, the first one, where he's like not in the episode that much, but he's like still influencing things. The Ood was specifically lifted from that. And I remember I wrote the treatment, and I had the Ood in it, and I was like, see, I don't know if Connor will let me do the Ood. So I removed the Ood and just wrote robot, and then sent it to you. And then while I was writing the script, I went, screw it, I'll just put the Ood back in. I love the Ood. Yeah.
That's the thing. I'll tell you honestly, I read the first 10 pages and I loved it so much. I didn't even read the rest of it. So part of me went, I want to edit this and not know until I'm editing it what's happening. But then, I thought, well, I actually have to read it anyway, because I have to make sure everyone's done their lines. And it was just John cackling, going, I'm killing them all. And I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Because I mean, at the moment, we're kind of working on the first full volume of Mastermind stories at the moment. Hopefully by the time this is out, John has sent his script over. It is taking too long. Dan's written one as well. So Dan's one, though, is still it's like a light-hearted sort of story.
Yeah.
He still keeps it very light. It's like, but then John writes a lot of dark stuff anyway. Like, to put into context, he wrote an episode for Uncharted Pass Volume 2 where the villain waterboarded Nathan, and Nathan's like 15. And it's just like, and we're all, I remember Dan tweeting it, like, what? Like, what are you doing to him? And then literally,
that just sounds very John.
Yeah, and then literally, he just said when John wrote the follow-up story for Volume 3, which was like the conclusion of that arc, he said, please don't waterboard Nathan. And John just went, no worries. So then he eats moldy biscuits in that story. He gets tied to a chair, gets a drill in his arm, and is force-fed moldy biscuits, and then vomits everywhere. And you're like,
because every time John writes, Daniel gives him another.
Well, that's the thing. Dan said,
kind of another note, like, stop torturing Nathan.
Yeah, but it was funny because Dan just said, I told you not to hurt him. And John went, no, you told me not to waterboard him. He was like, well, no. It's just so horrible. He was like, no, please, don't do this to him. It was great. It's just poor old Dan realizing he's like, you're murdering him. Please, my peace. It was great, yeah. And but that's the thing, John loves really dark themes, and I think it works for no one better than the Master.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, did you like the actor who played Rain?
Yeah.
It's
been a while since I listened to it. I listened to it on the release.
It was the younger sibling.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember her.
That was me.
I thought it was. I thought it was.
I don't know if I
had like a slight feeling. I was like,
I just could not find anybody. Yeah, I just could not find anybody.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, I was like trying to go, okay, Braxton, it's not funny, like that, and then just change the pitch. But I was surprised. I can't do it anymore. I literally did it really well for that, and then every time I've tried to recreate it, I can't anymore. I don't know why.
I can never bring her back.
Yeah,
got it.
But it was interesting because I was like, people don't know about the whole. Yeah, people don't know that I do a lot of voices sometimes. I have I play a female voice as well.
That's Michelle, isn't it?
Yeah. A lot of people go, wow, you cast Michelle a lot. I'm like, oh yeah. She's always free. Yeah.
She really likes doing these.
Yeah. Well, somebody said to me, come on, somebody actually said to me at one point going, have you got this actress to do so much for you, so many tiny roles. Do you not want to cast her in something larger? I'm like, no, because then you'll know who it is. No, it was just something that you sometimes have to do because, like I said in one of the other podcasts, like one of the very early podcasts was, I was paying quite a few actors at that point to be in it, but I've not only have I got a mortgage now, but also I've just got bills to pay and I've got to look after myself. So as a result, I have noticed that audio production has basically almost like been extremely slow in compared to what it was before because the money's not going in anymore.
Yeah.
But I still enjoy doing it, and it just means that maybe every now and again I'm going to have to do a voice.
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a case of as long as the main 3 or 4 characters have a voice, and then if the little sister has to sound like me. But problem was though, I did the line, and as I was editing it, they kept calling her, and I'm like, I forgot that. I forgot that part. I was playing it like. I was like really realizing because I'm a guy, and like so I'm going to try and echo Michelle Willow's son or daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have we mentioned about how you wrote Crimson Hunter and how you wrote Devlin?
I think we started on Crimson Hunter and then we moved to Mastermind
again.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing is, the problem was when you wrote that episode. Uncharted Past with Devlin hadn't come out yet.
Yeah, no, that came out. What month did that come out? That came out February, didn't it?
Uncharted Past. Yes, I think it came out in February, and then the follow-up episode obviously followed in April. Yeah.
Yeah, because I wrote that, and I wrote that date as well. I wrote that November. I'm pretty sure. I wrote that. No, I wrote that January.
Oh,
okay, so the month before. If I'd waited a month, I would have had a perfect Devlin. But no, I had no grasp on who Devlin was, and I don't think I was told much either. I don't remember being told much about.
Dan asked for that. He asked for that. He said, "I really want it to be a surprise for him." I'm like, "What about the people who are writing him?" Because ultimately, they're going to put their heart and soul into this, and they're going to go, "That's not the character that I wrote." Oh God! And then literally, we're going to have to rewrite those characters' lines, and they're going to find the script changed, and they're going to be like, "Well, no, just tell them who he is." And he's like, "No, it's got to be a surprise. Everyone's got to enjoy him." I'm like, "Daniel, you do not know how this works."
Yeah, no, because I wrote it, and I was like, "Yeah, it's pretty good." And then the episode came out, and I was like, "Ah, shit."
Like, oh my God, who is this guy?
He is a lot more vulgar than I remember writing him.
Because in obviously in Uncharted Past, he's not swearing at all.
Yeah,
and then in Crimson Hunter, we just gave Luke free reign.
Yeah,
because we thought with the amount that Devlin does, how can he not be swearing?
Yeah. But I noticed because I listened to it this morning when I woke up. So I noticed that like there was still quite a few of my lines for Devlin that I noticed were still in there.
Yeah, he ad-libs as well.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, okay. So everything I wrote for Devlin wasn't completely useless. I'm glad the main thing that I'm glad about that was able to be kept was the whole janitor bit. The whole it was the whole Devlin having to be a janitor bit.
That was just pure Devlin.
Yeah.
I think there was some bits. I think there was some bits ad libbed about the name and everything, but how they got to choose their core names, like Adrian Malarkey, and I'm Bob Jenkins.
Yeah, and then he forgets it like halfway through.
Hi, I'm Bob Hoskins. Is Jenkins there? Oh, just grab him. And then in the end, he's just creating a pile of bodies in the closet, and then someone else walks in. What's going on here? Oh, for crying out loud. Yeah,
just adding people.
And then he just shows up covered in blood. Going, don't ask.
Yeah,
I thought you said.
Because I also remember in the original script, I'm pretty sure I gave Devlin like a love interest by the end of the script.
I remember that.
I'm pretty sure it was like, where was it? Was it the original girl who like figures out that he's not Bob Jenkins.
I'm gonna have a look.
I
mean,
remember...
I suppose you got a bit surprised there when she suddenly was dead. So what?
Yeah, no, that was the main thing. I first heard him, and I went, and the Uncharted Past, and went, "She's dead. She's dead." That entire storyline will not happen. I can guarantee you that.
Let's have a look.
That's so un-Devlin that I was like, nah, that's not, if Connor keeps that in, I will be shocked.
Let me look. Okay, so wow. Yeah, Devlin first appears in the 13th of February. You sent me the script on the 29th of January.
Yeah, if I'd waited like a couple weeks, I would have been able to write a perfect Devlin.
Yeah, so this all basically started from you messaging, and I was thinking about, I'd written some of the audiobooks, but it was something I was struggling to get into, because going from writing scripts and then on the train to and from work, using notes on my phone to write the audiobooks, and I think those don't have page numbers, so I was just writing as much as I thought was necessary, and it always ended up being 7 to 8 pages, which is why I just started doing that. But so then Lewis had an idea for one that I then scripted or wrote. Then John was going to write one, but John's, I don't know if you probably know this, don't you, that John's written a novel?
I don't think I've known that.
All right, yeah.
Not now.
Well, he's written a novel, but he's obviously still looking for publishing agents at the moment.
Oh yeah.
We've worded it as he is currently negotiating one-sidedly with agents, because he's obviously sending them out and everything. But no, he's written a novel called Our Future Paradox. Because he does those series like Limbo. There's another one called Stories of the Camden. They're all one big connected thing of his own stuff. He's moving. Well, you know this. He's moving back to more Doctor Who content soon, because he wanted to take a break from doing so much of it, and he left it on a cliffhanger nearly 2 years ago. He's coming back to it. No, I mentioned that because I saw on Discord, like the DW 2012 Discord earlier, someone asked about John's series, and I'm like, well, I know the answer. But he's been incredibly busy with writing, so he wasn't able to come back to write any audiobooks. But he might, maybe, if I ask him. And maybe, and that's my washing machine going off. There you go. I'm an adult.
Small cameo.
Yeah. That was me half awake going, I have to do my washing today. I've got to get on call. Then hoping, and then put it on for 2.5 hours to wash. That goes to show how long we've been on call already. But anyway,
no, all good. I just remember I was on the Zoom call. Like we did like a test to make sure my audio would work for this, because I didn't want to get to recording this and then you'd be like, yeah, no, I can't hear you. You're like, damn, that's me. And then I ended up on a Zoom call with like heaps of other people. Yeah, with like everyone. And I remember like there was like a moment I wasn't really paying attention, and then someone just went, "Oh, Chelsea's on," and I was like, "Oh, okay." Just kind of had like a little freak out moment, and then like Chelsea like freaked out as well, and we were both just like, "Oh, yeah." And then Daniel joined as well, and I was like, "Okay." So I regard a lot of the like the DW 2012 doctors as like kind of canon doctors in my mind. Just like I kind of picture them as canon doctors. I'm like, they're like further down the line. Just I like to see everything that happens as like this is very far down the future of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And so like I kind of had the same freak out when like we started messaging. It was like, oh my god, I'm meeting the Doctor, meeting one of the doctors, and then like. Daniel, like, I think Daniel left early, and he like specifically was like, "It was good to meet you," and I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, you have a good night." Like, what do I say now?
That's the thing, because Chelsea was messaging going, "Who are the new people?" I was like, "Well, that's James Sutton, and then there's Eamon, and Eamon Longmann." She goes, "I know that name," and I'm like, "See, it's Volume 2, Episode 3." And she was like, that's why she then she was just like, "Ooh." and then there's Shushu going, "Oh." And I'm like,
yeah, both... it's just us being shy at this like the same time.
Yeah, I'm just like, you're both fangirling everyone. I'm like, can you just say hello? That's why, and that's when she said hello.
Yeah. No, that was really cool. It was, yeah, it's like meeting the actual kind of like Doctor and Companion teams. I'm like, this is
just show up.
crazy.
I suppose it's kind of odd as well because we just show up on call like, "Hey guys," and everyone's just like, "Oh," I'm just like, yeah, "This is just normal."
Yeah.
It's weird looking at it from that perspective because you always sort of look at like other people. I'm like, I'm in that area now.
Yeah, I'll get used to it like eventually. But like, I don't know. I don't know how many of the Doctors are in that chat. I know Dom is.
What in the Discord?
I've seen Dom's name in the sidebar, and I've seen George's name, but I don't know about any of the others.
I think I can probably tell you who isn't in it easier. Luke, Nathan, Pete. I think that's it. I think that's it.
Yeah, so it's now down to like Dom and George. The first time they pop on anything, it will be this kind of the same thing.
Well, yeah, George is very rarely on the Discord because he keeps forgetting to open it, and then Dom's on it whenever he can be, obviously. But like he'll probably be busy with, I don't know, filming series 5, making his own content, or literally working at Big Finish.
Yeah, one of those three. He's a very busy man.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for your time today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
No worries. And I'm sure we'll probably have you back on the podcast again at another point to discuss the other things you've written.
Everything else further down the line. Only 2 of like the 7 things I've written for you have actually come out. I worked out something like 7 or 8 or something like that. Yeah. And the first 2 are only out. So at the end of this year, it'll be 3, and then there'll be, I think, 4 or 5 more next year. So, yeah, I think I've written 4 more for next year. And then I'm in the process of writing at least 2 more.
Oh, God. Keeping busy.
Yeah. Anything keeps them busy during lockdown.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because you're on the...
we're still in lockdown. We just went back to it. So I'm just stuck now. I can't even go to see James Bond.
You'll be online somewhere.
Yeah, no, I know what happens. I was like, I'm going to get spoiled. I'm just going to Google it.
Yeah. No worries.
Then I read it on Wikipedia and went, okay.
Yeah. All right, that's cool. All right, now I just have to watch it.
Yeah. Now I'll listen to the soundtrack.
Just get in the complete mood, and then you'll be like, I know that bit. I know that bit. I know that bit. I know this music is where this is going. Oh, what? Back and forth. Well, once again, thank you very much. And
no problem.
I will pass it back to future me and Daniel. And welcome back. And we're going to do some comments reading, aren't we, Daniel?
Yes, some lovely comments. And we got quite a few releases this month.
Yes, because we had a lot of one-day releases. So we have Mastermind, we have Torchwood Rebirth, the 15th anniversary of Torchwood special, and then we've got the whole of Volume 2 of Crimson Hunter. So I'll begin with Mastermind. So we've got a comment here from Jeevan John saying, Overton Audios have yet again stunned me. This pilot episode was absolutely phenomenal. All of the performers by Adele Jane Harris, Joel Ely, Kat Furness, and the rest of the cast were brilliant. But last but not least, John N. Harper, he has a masterful performance as the Master, and he was sensational. I love how dark his incarnation was in this. 800,000 out of 800,000. Wow. And then we have a comment here from Dragonside Entertainment, who is Eamon Longmann himself, saying, it was an honor being able to tell such a fun story with you guys. John did an amazing job, and did the rest of the cast. Can't wait to see where you'll take this story next. And then, of course, lastly, we have Eamon's mother commenting, Laurette Longman, saying, well done, everyone. I'm very proud of your writing, son.
It's very wholesome.
Indeed. But those comments.
And moving on to Torchwood Rebirth, which came out the 22nd of October. We have Jeevan again. I gotta love Jeevan and his comments and his amazing ratings as always. This audio was absolutely phenomenal. Writing from Connor Chadwick was fantastic, along with the spectacular voice acting from Ben Walden as Tommy, James Sunn as Fraser, and Ruben Roper as Jaxus. I cannot wait to see the future of Rebirth. I think that's 90 million out of 90 million.
Oh my god! Wow.
That hit me. It's like I thought it was like 995. I was like, oh no, there's an extra zero there. That's 90 million. P.S. This is from Eamon as well. Dark Side Entertainment. Really fun first episode in the series. Tommy and Fraser work so well together, and Ben and James have such a great comedic chemistry. Great mystery introduced. Can't wait to see where this all goes. Me too. And Ben's Productions just says this was awesome. I can.
Very good, agree. Very good. Right. Moving on to the Crimson Hunter, Volume 2, Episode 1. And one comment from Jeevan. Oh my god, what's this number? This first episode to the second volume was phenomenal. Jericho King as Marcus was amazing, and it was great to see him again, along with Michael Cox as the executive, Courtney Gabidon as Rex, and Luke Lane as Devlin, who were all phenomenal. He really likes that word. Last but not least, though, the amazing Chelsea Lagan as Julia Breslin was sensational. She is just a gem of a character. Overall, this first episode to the second volume was awesome. 80 billion out of 80 billion.
Jesus.
Yes.
Oh, I wonder when we're going to get an infinite rating from him. So, moving on to Volume 2, Episode 2 of Crimson Hunter, Dead Man's Drop. We again have a comment from Jeevan. The second episode of to the second volume of Crimson Hunter was fantastic. It had all of the action and drama. All the characters were fantastic. Luke Lane as Devlin and Jericho Keane as Marcus, who I think had a heartbreaking character exit. It was phenomenal, along with Jake Kendrick as Sebastian Reginald the third. But last but not least, sensational Chelsea Lagan as Julia Breslin was incredible, and the way her character became more darker towards the end of the episode was spectacular. 90 billion out of 90 billion.
Wow. What could we go?
I had to double check. These just got a bit wild. These numbers. I can't wait to see what he says for episode 3. Which, speaking of,
I have a comment here from Dark Design Dramas who says, "A superb installment. I cannot wait for more." Thank you, John. And then got a comment here from Jeevan, John, saying, "This last episode of The Crimson Hunter, Volume 2, from Overton Audios was fantastic. All of the characters were just amazing. Luke Lane as Devlin was amazing. Courtney Gabidon as Rex was amazing, and his character was an amazing send-off. But phenomenal and charming Crimson Hunter herself, Chelsea Lagan, as Julia, was sensational. The part with Connor as the Cravat Doctor and Brianna Downing as Roxy Taylor, who's an amazing companion, was amazing. 100 billion out of 100 billion.
Knocked me out of the seat with that rating.
And I think this is a comment from Aidan.
Is it SC?
It is.
That is Aidan O'Connor. That is
good. I thought it might be Super Circuit or something like that. So
it is.
This comment's from Aidan, otherwise known as SC, saying, "Amazing volume. Got to say, I loved this volume. Great to see Julia get back into the life of the Crimson Hunter and how it's been affected by her through the events of the other series. Devlin is the GOAT." Is that a thing? G-O?
The GOAT.
Okay, I don't know. I don't know young people speak. I swear I was skitting at nearly every line coming out of his mouth. Marcus and Rex were great additions also. Really great to see more talent on the show. And of course, Michael Cox as the executive was such a thrilling performance. That man knows how to play up the deviousness of his character. Lots of surprises this time round too, all in a great volume. Then lastly, a comment from TARDIS Glitch saying, "So this whole box set was incredible. I really enjoyed the storyline here, and the EDS executive was great as we get to see more of him. Obviously, Chelsea and Luke crashed it as Julia and Devlin, and I loved Devlin's lines and the bits where he breaks the fourth wall in episodes 2 and 3. Episode 2 really shocked me as I thought that you would use the silence, but using the Weeping Angels instead, Dan, you clever son of a gun. Also, nearly having the Doctor swear was just perfect and exactly what we need if the Doctor was ever in another show like Torchwood, or if it is just the implication that he swore. Yeah, that particular moment in that volume was something we talked about for a very long time.
Yeah, like what we were saying, like we had the idea that Devlin would be the character that would make the Doctor break and just tell him to go F off. But we could never, ever, ever have the Doctor just say that sentence fully without being censored in some way.
Because then I feel like with the Doctor, it's not like he's not like a pure person, because he's like, you know, in many stories he's done very dark things. But I think having him swear would kind of break the facade of kind of a savior kind of look to me. Because, you know, you've got like with Torchwood and like Crimson Hunter, when you use that language, they're always sort of playing a bit of an anti-hero anyway.
Yeah.
So whereas with this, having the Doctor run around swearing and everything, I think just breaks that look of he's meant to be the kind of purest one of everyone else in that sort of sense.
Exactly, yeah.
So I was just thinking, like, we talked about having like something beep over him as he's talking,
like,
and Devlin's the only one who hears it.
Yeah. It's I don't know what it is, but yeah, Devlin would definitely be the only person in the Doctor universe the Doctor would just openly just had enough of, just to tell him just go F off.
Yeah.
And it's like, yep, that does it.
Yep, it does indeed. It does indeed.
I love Devlin.
Oh yeah, of course.
And is that all the comments?
That is all the comments for this month. Obviously, Cataclysm 1 trailer has been excluded from this because of the fact that it's not out yet. So we'll make sure to get to that in the next podcast, because next podcast we're actually going to be recording fairly soon because of the whole, you know, Christmas happening.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Christmas time.
Christmas time. Yeah, the next two podcasts are going to be interesting because we're going to be actually next podcast we're going to be talking about Torchwood, Decades and Decades, and then we're actually going to be exclusively just talking about some of the releases that are coming up in 2022. And and you never know, somewhere in the podcast there might be a visual element. I've committed to something.
You committed to something. Oh God.
I know.
It's hot in this room, Chatters.
Yes, indeed. So yeah. Anyway, I think that's it for the podcast, isn't it? That's everything we've got to speak about.
It is. Yeah, we've gotten through the agenda very nicely there.
Yes, indeed, very smoothly, I think. Indeed. So thank you everyone for listening. Apologies that it's a bit shorter. This I don't know how much we recorded for this, but so apologies if it is a bit shorter than usual. You'll find that as we go into next year, which we'll explain in December with how the releases are set up, you'll find that the podcast will be more concise and less sort of dragged out now. So you'll see things a bit more streamlined and such like that, which is something, because it's been a bit of a chaotic couple of years, isn't it? We're trying to get all the releases and everything organised.
It was not as chaotic at the start because of the pandemic, but now as the pandemic is as lockdown.
I only mean it was chaotic because we were making too much.
Oh God, yes, that's right.
But now as real life takes over again, things will start changing, which of course we'll explain in next month's podcast for December.
Exactly. Thank you all very much for listening as well, and we will see you all next month.
Indeed. Farewell.
Farewell all.